Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. A few things to have on hand that might be helpful. One is I'm standing on a yoga mat. If you don't happen to have a yoga mat, don't worry. You can turn a carpeted area in your house, or maybe you've got a rug that could become like a magic carpet yoga mat for you. Just not something too slippery or too hard as a place to practice. A folded blanket, which can be as simple as a beach towel or the throw blanket from your couch. And a couple of yoga blocks, which you can use thick books to substitute for. And sometimes I will call it out, like you could use the arm of your sofa or a chair or the wall. So sometimes for balance, those are great things to have at your beck and call. Let's start standing with our feet hip distance in the bedrock of all poses, our mountain pose. I'd like you to turn your palms to face out and feel that happen from your shoulder joint. There is a very soft bend to our knees as we turn the arrows of attention inward as opposed to distractedly outward. And we land in our body, in our breath. Already you can feel a balance between your 2 feet, a balance between inhales and exhales. If you can, try to breathe just through your nose. If that's not available, no worries. Just mindful breathing is what I ask for. 3 silent moments here. Adding movement to our breath. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Let's just use thighs for the first one. Inhale, traction your hands on your thighs. Smile your collarbones as you lift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips, but keep the length through your spine. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. We stand in our mountain, palms face out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Hands can stay at your thighs or venture down to your shins or ankles, but I don't want that to be a rounding. I want us to keep a hip hinge and length through our spine. Then inhale, uplift your heart like a little smile to your collarbones. Exhale, fold it in, but keep the length in your spine. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. And we'll stand into our mountain. Hi, Tippy. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Exhale, fold back in. Bend your knees deeply enough that your hands go on your mat, and then step back to down dog, and in my case, a very literal down dog. Let your feet be as wide as your mat for this first one. There's no collapse in our shoulders. We're not bending our elbows out to the side. Imagine a hook in your tailbone, lifting your tailbone to the sky. So your torso is long and a bend in your knees is likely helpful. And then walk forward, feet hip distance, hands to ankles, shins, or thighs as we inhale. Fold in as you exhale. Rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V. Inhaling, stand in your mountain, palms face out. Adding on, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands onto your thighs or shins or ankles. Keep that long spine. Inhale, uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Bend your knees deeply enough that your palms go flat. Step back to your down dog. Feel free to be wider with your feet. Maybe you move them towards hip distance. The priority is our long spine, so oomph into your arms. Feel that hook in your tailbone, and then shift shoulders over wrists towards a plank. We're not collapsed into our shoulders here, so push the ground away. Make your way back to down dog. Let the hook in your tailbone move you that way, and then walk your feet forward, hip distance towards your hands. Hands to ankles, shins or thighs as you inhale and uplift your heart, and then exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand, palms face out in our mountain. Adding on again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins or ankles, but long spine. Inhale, hands might slide up your shins as you uplift your heart, and then exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, bend your knees, palms flat, step back to down dog, feet can be wide or maybe hip distance. We have a hook in our tailbone. Shift it towards a plank, shoulders over your wrists, and you're oomping into your arms. Bring your knees down on the ground, directly underneath where they were in your plank, and check to make sure that you still don't collapse and that your low belly is lifting towards your spine. Keep that, shift a little forward, elbows brush your ribs as you lower all the way onto your belly and uncurl your toes. Let's go to Sphinx pose, so forearms down. Traction your elbows towards you. Press into the tops of your feet until your kneecaps lift. We're not throwing our chin forward. Our chin is parallel to the ground. Our shoulder blades are imprinting as if they want to make their way through to our heart. Lower down, curl your toes under, slide your hands next to your ribs. Firm through your belly and come through all fours. And then make your way to down dog. Remember the hook in our tailbone. We'll walk our feet forward slowly, hip distance to our hands. Hands onto ankles, shins, or thighs as you uplift your heart. Fold back in, but keep the length in your spine. And then inhale, rise, reach. Thumbs to the sky, a V. And we'll stand into our mountain. Adding on. Inhale, arms out and up. Thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your shins, thighs, or ankles. Inhale, lift your heart. Bend your knees, palms flat, step to down dog, and you can decide how wide. Tailbone is lifting, oomping into our arms. Shift shoulders over wrists, no collapse in our shoulders. Knees down, low belly draws in. Lower elbows brush your ribs. We're on our belly. We uncurl our toes. Either sphinx with your forearms down or keep your hands where they are for a cobra pose. Press into the tops of your feet, long, strong back bend. Not too much in our neck, not too much in our low back. Lower down enough that you can curl your toes under, firm through your belly, come through all fours. And then into downward facing dog. Find the hook in your tailbone. Bend your knees if they're not already and walk forward, feet hip distance. Lift your heart, inhale. Fold in, exhale. Rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, and then stand into your mountain. Take your 2 blocks. You also might situate yourself where you have access to the arm of your couch or a chair. Blocks tall, about a foot out in front of us. I think I've got one of Tippy's hairs in my eyes. It's really making me crazy. Pardon me. That's what happens when you're live. Now, feet hip distance, I'm going to turn to face you a little bit. You're probably facing that short edge of your mat, but I want you to be able to see me really clearly. We'll stand on our left leg and bring our right knee into our chest. And you can do that with your hands on your hips, but I want to make sure that we don't collapse into that left hip. So we're nice and strong and tall. Now, we will seesaw carefully. This is where you might decide to come to the arm of your chair. A little bend in our left knee. Our fingertips will reach towards those blocks, and our body is in a letter T. We're standing on our left leg. We've got our right leg back behind us, and we're firm in our belly like when we did that plank position. You could think this is almost like a plank. Now, I'm going to bend my left knee more because I know where we're going, so you might want to do the same. Right knee into our chest, firm through your belly, stand upright. Your balance will be better than mine was just now, and we step down, feet hip distance, palms face out, a little soft bend in our knees. So this is a balance game. We have to work with our breath. Now, standing on your right leg, left knee into your chest, and maybe hands on your hips is helpful to make sure that we're not too much moving our pelvis, that our pelvis is quite stable. Outer right hip is solid. And now we seesaw into that letter T. A bend in our right knee is a really good idea. You can take your hands onto the arm of your sofa or fingertips onto your block. Lots of core work here. It's sort of like when we did our plank position. We want to keep our long spine our priority. We'll bend our right knee a little bit deeper so that it helps us out. As we come up to standing with our left knee into our chest, hands might come onto our hips. We'll step down and into our mountain. Let's do each side one more time. I'm going to blame my wobbly balance on the dog hair in my eye. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Stand on your left leg, hands on your hips, right knee to your chest. Seesaw slowly. Right leg back behind you, a bend in your left knee is a good idea. Very long spine, firm through your belly. Fingertips might go to your blocks or hands on the arm of your chair. Bend that left knee deeply enough that your right knee comes back into your chest. Hands on your hips, step down into your mountain. Palms face out just to remind ourselves to stand tall. Then we stand on our right leg, left knee into our chest, maybe hands on your hips. A bend in your right knee is a great idea. We seesaw, belly firm, long spine. Fingertips might come to your blocks or hand on the arm of that sofa or chair. Bend your right knee deeply, left knee into your chest. Hands might come to your hips. Step it down, and we pause. Let's resituate our blocks to either side of our mat, not on our mat, but on the two long edge sides of our mat. And now we're facing the short edge. So if you're not operating on a mat, you're just imagining that that's essentially what you're up to here. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale, uplift your heart. Fold back in, bend your knees deeply, palms flat. Step back to your down dog. Make sure that your palms are flat as you get there. Lift your right leg back behind you and then step it forward. Now likely it comes about halfway and you help it along. Trot your blocks into either side of your right foot and square off so that we're not swinging our right hip out to the side. So right hip back and left hip forward. Our belly is firm, like when we did that little seesaw with our knee to our chest and then our fingertips reached for our blocks. Even though we're in a lunge shape, we've still got that going on. Move your blocks off to the side, do what you need to. So maybe bringing your back knee down is helpful, but palms flat for down dog. Remember, down dog, you can stay on your tiptoes and widen your legs, but oomph into your arms and then come to plank. And let's push into our arms so we're not sagging. Knees down, belly firm, shift forward all the way to your belly. Uncurl your toes. Either cobra with your hands down or forearms down for sphinx. We're not struggling through our neck. We're active in our legs, pressing the ground with the tops of our feet. Then lower down enough that you can curl your toes under. Come through all fours and into down dog as if you had a hook in your tailbone. Lift your left leg behind you. Use that velocity to step it forward, and it's likely you'll help it along. Blocks come in on either side of your left foot. We swing our left hip back and our right hip forward. We find a long, strong torso, much like our plank position and our letter T that we did earlier. We stay for 2 moments and breathe here. And then we do what we need to, including bringing the back knee carefully to the ground if it's helpful. Blocks off to the side, down dog. Find the hook in your tailbone. And then walk forward. Feet arrive hip distance at our hands. Inhale, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as we uplift our heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold in. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, and then stand. And pause in your mountain. We'll combine those together in a little bit of a sun salutation variation. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. hinge at your hips and hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Fold in and bend your knees, palms flat. We step to our down dog. Once you're in your down dog and you find the hook in your tailbone, lift your right leg behind you. Step that right foot forward. Feel free to help it along. Bring your blocks into the mix on either side of your right foot. Steer right hip back and left hip forward. And we're going to need some core strength, some trunk stability here. Move your blocks forward about a foot. Lift your left leg so we're in that letter T position. Now remember, we bend the right knee deeply. We find that core work and we'll come upright, left knee into chest. Hands might come to your hips. Step it down. Let's make it chair pose. Thumbs to the sky, a V, and then stand into your mountain. Pause in your mountain and mindfully move your props so that your blocks are a little bit further back for our lunge and our second side. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips, bend your knees, palms flat, step back to your down dog. Once you know that you're solid with your hook in your tailbone, lift your left leg behind you, step it forward and feel free to help it along. Bring your blocks onto either side of your left foot. We're steering left hip back and right hip forward. We are very solid in our trunk stability. Move your blocks forward. Launch into your letter T, standing on your left leg. Add some bend to your left knee. Stand upright, right knee into your chest. Hands can come to your hips. Step down, hip distance, chair pose. Thumbs to the sky, and then stand and pause. Palms face out. We need to change where our proppage is. So blocks on the long edge, on either long edge of your mat. So they are not on your mat, but behind your mat. Step wide on your mat, thumbs to the sky. Let's start with measuring ankles underneath wrists, and then we will refine from there. Turn your right leg out so that your right foot is facing the short edge of your mat. And then let your left heel be at a 45-degree angle and bend that right knee. Now, if you're like me, you probably need actually a little bit more space front and back so that it's a vertical line from our right knee to our right ankle. And then hinging at our hip, right forearm across the thigh, left thumb up to the sky. We're not crumbled into our right shoulder, so there's a bit of a karate chop and a feeling of length in our bottom ribs as we're here. Now, if you don't have props, if you don't have those blocks, you can still just take your right hand onto your thigh. I don't want you to hyperextend your right leg, but you would straighten slowly and press into that thigh carefully. If you have props, bring your right block next to your right ankle and begin to press into your right big toe mound and let it become triangle pose. Spin inner upper arms away from one another, and we'll pause here for a moment. This next bit is going to be very tricky if you don't have a prop, and you might just carefully bring yourself over to use the arm of your sofa if you don't have a prop for this. This would actually be a perfect prop, my fireplace. So if you don't happen to be situated in front of a fireplace and you don't have a block, just know that there are different ways that you can place your hand on something to help with balance. Let's rebend our right knee and take our left hand onto our hip. Now remember, we moved our block forward when we did our letter T. All we're going to do is take that triangle to flight. So our block will go a foot out in front of our right pinky toe, and we'll play with lifting our left leg. So that's what I mean, is you could use something like the arm of your sofa, like I'm using my fireplace here, and then maybe left arm up to the sky. We're not here long, we're balanced and breathing. We'll step it carefully back into triangle. So I like to bring my left hand onto my hip, and then step it back into triangle. My leg is straight, my bottom ribs are long, maybe I float my left arm up, and then to dismount, bend your right knee, move your block off to the side, come through a warrior two, straighten your front leg. I know that was a lot. Turn your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Regroup for a second. I'm giving you a ton of different poses. Super fun, but a lot to figure out. Turn your left leg out. Cheat your right heel at that 45-degree angle. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. We bend our left knee, so we're in a warrior pose. We should be okay spacing-wise, but always good to double check that vertical line. Left forearm across your thigh, right arm up to the sky. Now you can stay with this, and you can use your hand on your thigh for constructing your triangle if you don't have props. Maybe you're over there using the arm of your sofa or near your sofa where you know that you can use it. If you have blocks, that left block can come to the outside of your left foot, and then we'll slowly straighten our left leg. Now, one thing I want you to note is that I'm not side bending. I'm keeping my left ribs really long, and I'm slowly straightening that left leg by pressing my left toe mound into my mat. So even if you're using your hand on your thigh or your hand on this block, we're making sure it's muscular. Spin your inner upper arms away from each other. We will re-bend our left knee and take our right hand onto our hip. Look where you're going. Move your block about a foot out in front of your left pinky toe. It takes a few hops often just to turn this into a floating triangle. You might take your right arm up to the sky as you balance here, and then we'll just come back out into triangle. Right hand on your hip. Look down and know where you're going. Triangle pose, block on the outside of your right foot. We step it back and pause. You might free that right arm back up to the sky. And then we'll re-bend our left knee. You try to make it that vertical line. Look down, move your prop out of your way. Come upright into warrior two. Straighten your left leg. Turn all toes to face that long edge of your mat. Mindfully, heel toe. We're hip distance. We make our way to the front edge of our mat with our hip distance stance, and we pause in our mountain. Just let all that digest for a second. It was a lot. Inhale, arms reach out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to thighs, shins or ankles, it's up to you. Inhale, uplift your heart. As you fold back in, bend your knees so deeply that your hands go flat, and we can make our way into down dog. Feel free to widen your stance and be on the balls of your feet. Lengthen like the hook is in your tailbone. Shift shoulders over wrists towards plank, knees down, belly so firm. Lower all the way down onto your belly. Uncurl your toes for either cobra or sphinx. Lower down, curl your toes under. Come through all fours. Once you're on all fours, we turn this into a seated pose, which is where you might decide to grab your folded blanket and sit upon it. You can even use a cushion from your couch like a bolster to sit on. A wide-legged seat. So if you find that you're sitting wide-legged and it's turning into this business, you want to sit upon something and probably keep a bend in your knees so that we can be upright, long through our spine like we've talked about in all the postures that we've done today. Curl your toes back towards you so we're not flopped in or out. And let's just pause a moment here. So you don't have to have straight legs. It might actually be beneficial to you to have a little bend in your knees, but either fingertips behind you or hands on thighs. We grow tall here. You might want to reach and find your two blocks and take them on either side of your right leg. So think sit bones into the ground, tall spine, and we're turning towards the right, and we could place our hands on our blocks as if we were doing that cobra or sphinx. And it's not that we're rounded over that leg. We might move our blocks a little bit forward, but we're really looking to sink the left sit bone and find the sensations, not think that we need to get our face close to our leg. And we've got a few moments here. And then we'll make our way through center and place our blocks on either side of our left foot. Sit up tall. Let your right sit bone, so we're not taking it with us, we're letting that settle into the ground. We're turning towards that left leg. We're tractioning our hands so that we feel length through our spine. Right ribs are rotating towards that left leg, and then there'll be a sweet spot. You're the expert at finding that. I am merely your guide. And then let's stay with this a few moments. And now walk yourself to center. I like to take my 2 blocks and walk down the middle a little bit, but I'm still thinking Sphinx pose. I'm certainly not desperate to get my face down on the ground. It just gives me a little hint more sensation in my inner thighs and hamstrings. 30 seconds of silence together here. As you walk your blocks back in, 2 choices, probably more, but I'm just going to give you 2. You can stay seated with a cross-legged position and end our practice in cross-legged meditation, or lie down on your back, find your way towards our Shavasana final meditation, lying down, shimmying your shoulder blades underneath you. I like to do a wide stance, knock me my knees, gently lift my hips, make space in my low back, and either stay here or straighten one leg and then the other. Let's allow ourselves our rest and digest. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready, gather up your knees gently into your chest. Roll to your side. If you're seated, we're coming to find you. Let your head be the last thing to come up, and then we join our friends who might be in their seated meditation. We just take a moment, a grateful moment. Feeling all the goodies we've been able to experience in our practice, and wearing those with us out into the world where the real yoga happens. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.